when you talk about, getting lost in time when you're doing stuff with technology, I find myself, if I'm in the restroom and I have my phone, I'll easily spend 30 minutes just sitting there on my phone. But if I don't have my phone, I'll be in and out within like 5 minutes.
So the bathroom has become your place of worship to your smartphone.
To my phone. Yeah. As odd as that sounds. Yeah.
Your bathroom is now the sanctuary to your smartphone. Do you have like a little pedestal to put your smartphone on?
No.
Okay.
It's my hands.
No, your hands are just a little pedestal.
Yes.
Well, see, that doesn't happen anymore.
Why
actually,
doesn't it?
okay. It's funny. That's perfect one to play now because recently I got rid of social media for a while. I just deleted the apps on my phone. Wow. It has shortened the time of being stuck on the John.
You have
on my
saved so
phone.
much time in your life over the past few weeks because you have removed social media. I think, Aaron, you should write a book on how to save time in a modern life for the modern era. Well, welcome to another episode of Use Your Words Podcast, where we get to learn about Aaron's bathroom habits on a week-by-week basis.
Oh, no. It's not that scary. It's pretty average. But whatever average is, I don't know.
Don't care. So we are now in the mighty month of December, the last month of 2020, the year that has gone on for far too long.
But it's also going to be going on for 10 more years.
Not 2020. Just next year will be 2021.
Well, it's going to be the year of 2020s.
You mean it's going to be the 20s? It's going to be the decade?
It's going to be the 20s. So it's going to be 2020, part 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Well, if Corona lasts for 10 years, then
We have an issue.
yeah, at that point, I'm going to blame you.
Knock on wood.
So, anyways, welcome again to the episode. We're winding down to counting down to the wonderfulness of the end of the year. So since it's December and, we're kind of like smack dab in the middle of holidays, we just had Thanksgiving and now we're going to have Christmas and then New Year's, back to back fun there with that. Yay.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited.
So we're not going to have like 4 different, I guess you could say topics because we got 2 weeks of normal whatever craziness and then 2 weeks of holiday war stuff, and then the holiday one, we will have the wonderfulness of, well, when I say holiday, the New Year one, we'll have the wonderfulness of Josh Brewer back, Mr. Fake News Josh, as well as Lieutenant. Part of me always wants to call him Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
But he still has his legs, so he's not Lieutenant Dan.
Well, for now, we'll see.
I don't think he's going to run over an IED in the United States unless he's visiting Detroit. But we'll see. But regardless, what are we talking about today, Mr. Johnson?
All you need is love.
No. Well, that's not how I put it, but
not.
I think I put it a little bit differently.
Yes, you did.
I put it as rules or people. So this is actually an article that I wrote. And when I say article, I mean like short little blurb of thoughts that I put into text from my head to my fingers. And the article I wrote was called Rules or People. And I started off with, I think, probably the 4 lines that define this whole conversation. And the 4 lines are a quote from a song. The song is called Glass Houses by The Classic Crime. Again, I would play it if I could, but I can't because of copyright laws. And,
why don't we just text them or email them, not text them?
because there's a whole chain of it. It's not just the artist who has to give you approval. It has to be all the right holders.
Yeah,
so I mean, all the people who distribute the records, all that. So it's a big
whole ordeal.
Yes, and I have purchased rights usage before.
It's not fun.
For a video that I did for the youth group many years ago for Snow Camp, and it was for like 1 year usage of the video for a nonprofit for under 100,000 views, not allowed to download. There's the key: download or stream only. it was like $250 for the year.
Wow.
But as soon as you add like download, the price just shot up. Well, guess what? When you're doing a podcast type thing, it's all download, and it's not for profit then. So I'd imagine starting costs would just be astronomical, and
Not worth it.
Unless you want to take out of your savings, Mr. Johnson.
Well,
we're not doing it.
Yeah, I don't have any money at the moment now again anyway. Well, I do, but not
I know
enough for that.
Yeah, so we're not going to do that. So unfortunately.
So sorry.
I know, and
good song. Check it out.
Yeah. So again, it's called Glass Houses by the Classic Crime. The 4 lines in question, actually, I don't know if you remember this. There was, it was one of our barbacoa Saturdays when we would go to barbacoa like every Saturday morning for a while there. I played this song and I said, what is the important, what's this song getting at? And I asked you that.
I probably didn't even know.
No, you didn't.
And
Josh didn't catch it either.
Oh, okay. Good. I'm glad.
So, because I asked Josh, that was like another week. It wasn't the same.
Okay,
it wasn't the same time as you. It was like another week, and I said, "Okay, Josh, I have a song I'm going to play it. Tell me what is the importance of this song? What is this song getting at? Summarize it in a sentence or two." I didn't tell him to summarize it in like a word or two. My summarization is rules or people. That's my summarization. So here's the 4 lines. I can read the lines, thankfully, without copyright issues. Woohoo! The lines are, somewhere deep down you know the difference between love and following orders. And if the chorus I sing is offensive, it's proof that you've yet to address your disorder. The big phrase in there is somewhere deep down you know the difference between love, following orders. And where that really gets to the heart of that is, and in the little article thing I wrote, and Aaron can attest to this, both sides of the aisle, when I say both sides of the aisle, I'm saying Christians, non-Christians, we're all guilty of this, whether we like it or not. I'm guilty of it. Aaron's guilty of it. Josh is guilty of it. The enforcer's guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. You know why we're all guilty of it? Because we're stupid, flawed humans.
True. Yeah. There's no arguing that one.
So, Mr. Johnson.
No.
Rules or people?
I feel like this. I mean, I would say people.
Why?
Oh man, why you gotta ask why like that? I guess to what level? I guess is because I feel like there's different levels of stuff where it's like, okay, if you break a rule, you're gonna have consequences for breaking said rule. You can still be loving to someone and bringing, while still, I guess, in a sense, disciplining someone and, or, having there still be some sort of consequence for the situation.
Right.
It's just that's not easy to see from the person's view of being disciplined or having to deal with said consequences from someone because of your actions or whatever it is that you did. So I guess it depends on. I feel like everything always. I feel like is that a good thing that I think that, or maybe I just don't know what to even think anymore. But like, I mean, it depends on like a situation. Like, okay, someone kills my parents. That's pretty tough. No, like they're gonna have to pay for that, I guess, and that's.
So let me ask this question.
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
Does loving someone automatically preclude them from the ramifications of their actions?
No.
Okay.
I'm assuming. Wait, what was what that?
Does loving someone,
yeah,
preclude them from the ramifications?
Okay, I'm assuming that means like removes them from having to deal with.
It means like essentially like because you say you choose to love this person or this whatever. Yeah. Does that mean that they are immune to the consequences?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, you can still get consequences.
Murder is kind of an extreme example of that.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Super huge, extreme example.
You can still love the person, but say, "Hey,
I guess
I think you need to pay the.
you're gonna pay the consequences for this action of yours. No, so okay, I'm gonna use a different one than murder. It still ends, I guess, in a sense with, well, it's still death, but that whole situation where was it the one gal enters what she thinks is her apartment, sees someone else, sees the other guy in there, and ends up killing them. That's how it went, right? Because she thought they broke into her place or something. I don't know. I thought that's how it went.
Something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know there was some like confusion there. Like someone thought they were in a different apartment.
Yeah. And so the brother of this guy that was killed, see now granted, this is just going off of the one video that I saw that went viral, I suppose, was, he has a Christian, I guess, faith or like bringing up. And what he did was, he asked if he could give the lady a hug and forgave her, and I don't know, I guess essentially loved her. Now, did she? I don't know if she still served time, or I'm imagining she did.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, he still had an attitude of love and kindness towards her, despite her killing her brother, kind of thing.
His brother or whatever. Yeah. So instead of saying, you know what, you murdered some of my family, therefore,
you're dead to me.
Yeah, I hate you. Please throw the maximum book at her, whatever. The law still demanded that some justice was dealt out, that she still had to suffer some punishment. But as far as him to her, he was like, I want to love you and I want to forgive you, and I understand, I'm not going to hold this against you, type of deal. We even can look at this, and in the article I wrote, I said, both Christians and non-Christians are very guilty of this, where we demand justice over love, where we demand rules be followed over love.
Right.
And the Christian history is ripe with examples of this, unfortunately, because we have people who were very much like what we would call, I guess you could say, legalistic.
Legalism is awful.
That's what we would call it in modern days, legalistic, right? Where, we say, okay, the Bible says this, and Aaron, he didn't go to church this Sunday.
Huh?
And that means we need to, excommunicate him now.
We need to have a stern talking with this boy. Let's have a big meeting.
Aaron was caught swearing. Or Aaron told his parents, no, he wasn't honoring thy father and mother.
I was disobedient.
And instead of going, okay, Aaron, we need to have a little talk and, work on some things, immediately go, Aaron, you are now forbidden from. Those are minor examples. You look at history. You remember the book, The Scarlet Letter. Did you ever have to read that No, you never had to read that in high school. I know.
Maybe that was a book from one of the English classes I failed.
I get it. You went to
Case High School, public high school.
Well, I was going to say Hickville, USA.
I wasn't in Hickville. I was middle ground.
So Scarlet Letter, it was to be fair, it is a work of fiction.
Okay.
So it's not like they're telling historical context, and historical truths. So essentially, in the Scarlet Letter, if you were caught in adultery, you had to wear a big old A, scarlet red A, on your clothing. That's how it was. And instead of, the people around her necessarily being loving, they would just kind of say, oh, nope, avoid, like the plague.
Stay away from you.
You look at the lepers in the old times, people would see them, and instead of saying, hey, we understand your suffering, what can we do? It was, no, be gone, you, go outside the gates. And now I understand why in the context of the Old Testament, when before there was this thing called medicine, and science, when people are like, we don't know how to keep clean, we'll keep you away and everything.
Right.
I understand part of that, But at the same time, they were just completely shunned. It was like, oh, you don't go in.
I thought they were a lot of times. I mean, being looked at as God was angry with them and punishing them for whatever reason.
Well, that was true with a lot of sicknesses. in the past.
Yeah, back. Oh, yeah.
You know,
that was just yeah.
You know, instead of people having any sort of compassion, it was just like, nope. You're
sick.
You're out there. You know, and
You are not
Jesus
wanted.
kind of broke the mold and said,
Yeah.
Hey, I don't care. Now, to be fair, Jesus, you know, he could kind of heal them. You know,
He kind of did that.
You know, they you know, you talk about the story of the woman who had, forget, it was like a bleeding disorder or whatever disease, and she just touched the robe and got healed. And then he's like, "Who touched me?"
Who did that?
You know, where he knows someone actually did, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like a who did that. Like it was more like who did that.
Yeah,
You know?
even though he knew,
Yeah,
he just wanted her to be like, "It's me."
but you know, he didn't shun them.
No.
He was putting people above the law in that regard.
And just like, I guess, so what I guess, was that law, or was that just like
Or
standard like thought amongst the people?
the law.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I put that in quotes.
Yeah.
The law that they have to be out and about outside the city.
Yeah. They're outcasts.
They're unclean.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look at the story of Jesus, and again, Jesus keeps putting people above the law multiple times. You look at, you know, the whole idea of keeping it, you know, the Sabbath, keep it holy and everything, right? And yes, I agree. Take a day of rest a week.
Oh, that is good.
It is very good. Now, people go, well, the Sabbath, it has to be Saturday or it has to be Sunday. You know what? That's not necessarily true. You have to keep a day. Now, you know, can you make some big grand argument that it has to be Sunday? Go for it.
Right. I guess.
But it's not. But at that point, you're being legalistic again. You are worrying about being right over being loving.
Right.
But you see, you know, like the man who that was lame in that Jesus healed and told, carry your mat.
Pick up your mat and
and
walk.
And the Pharisees go, well, why are you carrying your mat on the Sabbath day?
That's work.
Yeah, exactly. And they were all upset about it. And Jesus like, well, I just healed this. I just healed this man.
I helped a man.
Yeah, he can do that. Calm down.
Mm-hmm.
You're worried more about the carrying of the mat over the fact that he got better.
Yeah. So what do you really value?
Yes.
Which is, and I mean, like looking at it that way, that is ridiculous that you'd think that people would be like that, because you'd hope and think that, oh, you literally just saw someone be transformed and made better, and you're just like upset by it. Why would you be mad about that?
Well, you also have to remember, especially in Jewish culture and that with that, it was very more you follow the rules. You follow everything, you know, because, you know, before Christ's sacrifice on the cross, before he died on the cross, the only way you had any chance of, you know, going to, I don't know what, if they would even have a concept of heaven at that point, you know, but a good afterlife sort of deal, be on God's good side, let's say. So you had to follow all the sacrifices, you had to follow all the rules, you know, your unleavened bread, you know, how you did the Passover, everything was kind of like laid out. This is how you did it.
Yeah.
It was very strict. It was very rule. Now, at the time, they were following the rules thinking, I'm following the rules, I'm being a good person, where you read it and the rules were actually meant to show how flawed we were.
Because we can't keep the rules perfectly.
Yep. You look at modern examples of this, though, of where the church, and I'm starting on the Christian side and the church side, where the church puts rules over people. Look, and let's be honest here, look at how we have treated certain communities around the world. When I say certain communities, like, look how we have treated, you know, people of the LGBT community in that, where we sometimes don't treat them as humans. We put the fact that they are doing something that we see from the Bible as sin over the fact that they are human. And we make that the primary thing. We make the primary thing of who they're sleeping with instead of the fact that they are a human, made in the image of God, loved by God, and Jesus died for them as well.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
becomes a problem.
That's a big
And that
problem.
irritates me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. I will freely admit that. There are things that I am still working on myself on that, Like a lot of times I'll see some conversations, about masks, especially like recently, right? And I want to jump in and be a little snarky at times, depending on the context, but I have to refrain myself because
Right.
it's like, no, is this helping out in the situation? Is this being loving in regard, Because right now with this pandemic, okay, I'm not a fan of masks personally, okay? I have some questions, some of that, but I understand there are some people who are like, you know what, I'm older or I have some more issues health-wise. I want to protect myself, so I'm going to wear a mask or ask that you wear a mask around me. And like, okay, fine. That when it comes down to it,
Yeah.
if for me to love that person, I have to temporarily discomfort myself, and that's fine.
Yeah. And that is a really funny thing on how, again, just how people are so stuck in their own comforts, I guess, where they don't think it's necessary. They'll fight something, whether, I don't know, what's the phrase to say, but they'll just fight it to no end if they don't agree with it, even though it's not, wearing a mask, it's not that much to do to
Right.
show a little kindness and love to someone that would prefer you to.
So yeah, exactly. So, I would rather go ahead and wear the mask, be a little, oh, this is annoying, than try to fight and say, this is for my comfort. And then that person be a little scared potentially because maybe they have some underlying health conditions that make them more susceptible to the more, I guess you would say terminal cases of COVID,
Mhm.
to put it that way, more likely that they could be killed due to COVID, due to all the other underlying conditions.
Mhm.
But
Oh, I thought you looked behind me. I was like, what's behind me?
no.
Oh, okay.
So we have all that going on, and so that's what kind of got me thinking on all these things. It's just like it's ridiculous sometimes on how we fail the most basic command that Jesus said was the most important commandment. Period.
Wait.
So, huh?
What? Go ahead.
Oh, I was waiting for you because it looked like you were about to say it.
Oh, this is loving your neighbor.
Love thy neighbor. Yeah.
No,
Love thy neighbor as
as
thyself.
thyself. Yeah.
And that is hard sometimes because
Yes.
people will go, well, who's my neighbor?
Everybody.
Essentially, yes. People go, well, my neighbor is only the person that lives right next door to me. No, not necessarily.
That's how we define.
Yeah, that's how
your
we.
neighbor.
That's the wonderfulness of English and its craziness. Let's put it that way. But loving thy neighbor, and this sounds weird, but when I'm at the grocery store, my neighbor is the people around me. It's not just the people that live next to my house.
Yeah. I'll go to a store and see my actual neighbor and be like, okay, I'll love them, but not anybody else though.
Yeah. So at that point,
That's not what I do. I'm kidding.
At that point, they're neighbor squared, and you'll only love your neighbor squared.
Yes. Oh,
But that's hard at times because
absolutely.
we want to judge people based on anything, who they
Yep.
sleep with, who they love,
just how they act
how they
in
act.
public around you. If something,
They're a vapor. They don't deserve any respect or love.
right.
Oh, they're an alcoholic. They don't deserve any respect or love. Oh, they're a motorcycle rider. They don't deserve any respect or love.
Motorcycle people.
Oh, they're a cigar smoker. They don't deserve any respect or love. Fill in the blank with any action or activity. Oh, they're overweight. They're underweight. They're bulimic. They're
too
depressed.
perfect.
They're too perfect. They're blonde. They're this. They're that. They're this. They're that.
Anything and everything.
We find more ways to divide and conquer. I shouldn't say conquer. We find
Just-
more ways to divide and cause chaos and conflict and not love people. And instead, we could be looking for ways to say, how can I love this person that's different than me, that thinks differently, maybe has a different religion, maybe, whatever. We're looking for the differences on which to divide instead of their humanity on which to unite.
Mm-hmm. I guess I would. Part of me would say that's like the one thing that I feel like should really stand out about Christianity. At least, and this is just compared to like other religions. Now, and I've had conversation with a friend or two in the past kind of about like other religions and whatnot, and how like for some of them they're portrayed to be violent religions if
Right.
you don't follow it, kind of thing. Well, especially I guess if you're born. Well, no, if you're just someone that doesn't believe and is not a part of the religion, they'll be on you'll be on their bad side, kind of thing. Now, as far like I guess like for Christianity though, it's like you're supposed to love them.
Yeah, it
regardless.
doesn't say
It's-
love thy neighbor unless
there's no
they're Jehovah's Witness, or love thy neighbor unless they're Muslim. Love thy neighbor
Right.
unless they're gay. Love thy neighbor unless they're poor. Love thy
no.
neighbor unless they're whatever.
Yeah.
Bald,
Yeah.
blonde,
Yeah.
have
There's none
a
of that.
goatee, have a beard.
Have a tattoo.
Yeah. It doesn't say love thy neighbor except
Yeah.
it says
it's
love thy neighbor.
as you'd love yourself, which is another big thing because it's like you think of how you treat people, and as Paul says earlier, you know, I am very guilty of it all as well. Everybody is, as far as I know. But it's like I guess it's crazy. It's so easy to react harshly or wrongly against somebody for either doing something wrong or whatever. Like that's like one thing. I guess even for my nephews, like if they're playing with my stuff or whatever, like I'm very like if you break that, you in trouble. At least kind of how I used to be. But now I look at it as like, you know what? Granted, yes, they should learn the lesson of treating other people's stuff with respect. Not gonna deny that. But I guess how you go about it and like what's your attitude and stuff like that behind what you do is a big factor in if you actually love them or not, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot. I mean, but what's the most that they play? I mean, they'll play with my Xbox and my whatever the Switch, some Lego stuff. They'll play my guitars and stuff like that, which I get nervous about some of those because some of those guitars are a pretty penny. So I get nervous with stuff like that. But it's like, at the end of the day, if they actually accidentally ruin something, it's not like they're doing it on purpose. Be loving to them.
Yeah.
Be kind and gentle. Because also, I mean, as a kid, and for me to go back and be that young and like have someone like crack down on me for doing something wrong, that's terrifying. And can mess you up in some ways and just like scar you. Be afraid to do stuff, but
yeah, I'm not saying for your nephews to come over and just destroy your stuff. So don't take it as that here. What I'm saying is, if something happens, they accidentally drop it, they accidentally whatever. In the end, those items, that Switch, that Xbox, that guitar can all be replaced. And in the end, those things will be in the landfill long after you die.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
So what's more important, your nephews or items?
I would probably have to say nephews on that one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and what's more important, a relationship with someone and loving them or being right?
What about both? No, yeah, definitely loving somebody, having that relationship. Yeah, there's so many. Gosh, I feel like, obviously there's so many different examples of things to talk about regarding this topic.
Yeah.
We could do this the whole day.
We can go at it. Let's go. But what I'm getting at with all this though is, we often think of things as, okay, let's take, for example, recently you're seeing all these, riots and everything going on around the world, riots and everything. I forget social what, but you see all these things going around the world right now, like with all the riots are going on, after the George Floyd's death and everything, and they're all like, we want justice, we want this, we want that. And I'm not saying, so I don't want this to be heard at all as, I'm just saying ignore George Floyd's death and blah 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 blah. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, with all this social unrest and everything going on, what's more important? Is it more important for the justice to be had, or is it more important for the people to be heard, people to be loved, and things to change to make things better for the future? And how do you go about that? Right now with some of these and I call them riots. And here's why I call them riots: is they're not exactly always peaceful. When you have buildings being broken into and looted, and people go, well, those aren't the rioters. The rioters are peaceful. Unfortunately, they are being connected with your movements, so therefore, unfortunately, they get lumped in. It's an unfortunate thing. People are taking advantage of it. You can argue either way, back and forth, but unfortunately, they are tied in with it. And when you do that, and you have at the same time also people who maybe are counter protesting at these rallies for whatever reason, and you're beating up those who are in opposition to you, you are not doing your
Side a favor.
you're not doing your side a favor, but you're also showing hatred instead of love. And the whole point of this is that we should be seeking love for our fellow human instead of demanding justice. When it comes down to it, when you only have two options, justice or love needs to win.
Mm-hmm.
Without it, there's not going to be justice. Without love, there's not going to be things going right. Without love, people are just going to be full of hate, and then it's going to be tit for tat, back and forth. Without loving and when I say love, I'm not saying romantic love. I'm not saying the love where, Josh is taking Aaron out for a candlelight dinner later. Not that type of love. There's different types of love. When I say love in this regard, it's caring for the best for them. That's the type of love I'm talking about. And in order to love them, you can't beat them up just because they have a different opinion from you. In order to love them, you can't rob them just because they have a different opinion than you. In order to love them, you cannot shoot them and kill them in the name of justice because they have a different opinion than you. And that goes for both sides. You cannot hate and love at the same time and call it justice. It's either one. It's hate or love. And the problem is we are looking at things, unfortunately, in the context of my personal justice is the definition of love.
Yeah, it's twisted.
It is. And again, I'm saying both sides are guilty of this.
Oh, yeah. Not like, yeah. I guess what, yeah. Yes. I guess it doesn't matter what both sides are, because
when I say both sides, I'm saying Christians, non-Christians.
Okay. All right. That's all right. I wasn't sure if it's okay. Yeah. Yes. I'm following you. Yes.
Both sides are just as guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And we will never get there to the point where this is not going to be an issue because we are human. This will continue to impact how we do things, but we can choose to make things better ourselves.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy to think of at times, and obviously, I mean, it's not going to, I'm trying to think, like, showing love is not going to obviously either, well, some people could instantly just be like a wake-up call and be like, whoa, that's crazy that you would do that kind of thing. Where I'm just thinking of, oh, I had it all in the head and now I can't even talk about it. But it's like showing love to other people speaks a lot more than just, I guess, well, yeah, hating on people or like causing issues and whatnot. Because I guess what I remember, and one, I don't know if it was a Wednesday night or whatever, because we were talking about love and stuff like that. And then they're like, well, what's the opposite of love? And everyone's first thing is like, oh, it's hate. And then, but I remember, like, why can't I remember who it was? I don't know. But they said that the opposite of love is selfishness. And that kind of threw me for a whirl at first. I was like, what? That's crazy. Because, I mean, you always hear love, hate, whatever thing. Which, I mean, yeah, it's, yes. But, I mean, I guess you think of why do you do those things that are, viewed as like just hateful actions and stuff like that. It's out of what you think is right. And it's all, well, pretty much at that point, it's like all about you kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming from a selfish, I guess, mindset kind of thing. And it's like the fact that you would show love to somebody, hopefully, I guess the hope would be to kind of make them realize that, I suppose. And obviously that's not going to work for everybody, or it just doesn't happen right away. And that's another thing is like, I feel like people, they'll try and be loving about something, but then if it doesn't work, at least in their, I guess, this time that they would want it to happen, then it's like, oh, I just give up. Like that's another hard thing is if you're actually loving someone, it's just to keep doing it and being consistent about it is the biggest, hardest part to do, I suppose. And it's funny, it's not funny. It's thinking of all the things that you do for people or whatever, whether it be friends. Like just thinking about that, like I'll think about doing something nice for a friend. And one, I'm going to bring some Oxford's Red lyrics into this thing. But no, there's one line in one of the song. Oh, I think it's Treatment. I think
Okay.
it was a song. I don't know. I can find that in a second. But anywho, one of the lines are just a small line is, what are my true intentions? And I'll think about that. Like if before certain things or whatever that I do, it's like, am I going to do this for somebody because I love them? Or it's like, oh, hey, if I do this, maybe I can get something in return. I would say, I mean, obviously it's nice to do the nice thing for the person, the nice deed, whatever it is, whether you love them or don't. But it's like, I guess behind all of that, is it just something that's going to be self-gratifying for you later or what? That's another big part of it that like I never think to look at until, I don't know, just random times I'll think about that and be like, am I doing that because I actually love the person? Or am I just like, well, hey, that'll be better for me and it'll be a better like, oh, Aaron's this nice dude. So by doing this action kind of thing, it'd be self gratifying kind of thing. So there's so many different ways to look at loving. Now this is that's getting off the whole love or was it people or
No, but it fits in actually. It's not
Yeah.
getting off of it too much. It leads me to this question though. What's the worst case scenario that can happen when you love someone?
I would get rejected. I don't know.
Yeah, they you show love to them,
Yeah.
and let's just say, okay, let's put an example out there here. Are you familiar with who is it? Jen Hatmaker? So she used to be real popular in the conservative Christian circle as a author and speaker and all that. And then she came out in support of the LGBTQ community, whatever. But one of the things that she's done is like she and her husband would go to like LGBTQ rallies or whatever and hold a sign that says like free mom and dad hugs. You know, they just that's their way on how they're choosing, regardless of their religious view on everything, because they're like, oh, we believe it's okay to, have a gay marriage and all that in the church. That okay, so regardless of that, okay, the fact that they go and they say this is how we choose to love these people who maybe are feeling rejected by family, are feeling rejected by their friends, and all this. They say we're going to go and just give a hug. That's our method of loving someone. What's the worst that comes from that? A person feels validated for a little while. A person feels like someone cares. A person feels like they're loved. That's not saying by them giving them a hug that it's saying it's not saying anything more than that. It's showing love in that regard. That's no different than you, Mr. Johnson, who maybe, okay, who doesn't agree with someone on something, okay? Regardless of the topic, gay marriage, whatever, okay? That if you don't agree with that, but yet you know that one of your friends is gay and you still go out to lunch with them.
Mhm.
The hug or the lunch is not saying yes on these other things. It's a thing that you're doing because you have that relationship with them.
Yeah.
You're loving them.
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, what's the worst that happens when you love? They feel like a person. They feel
yes.
loved.
Mhm.
What's the worst? What's the best that can happen when you hate a person? At best, you
Nothing.
walk away enemies.
Which is probably what's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I say.
Yeah.
The worst that happens when you love is there's a connection. The other person feels like a human, and they feel like someone cares.
I guess I feel like the worst that could happen is if they just push you away, regardless. whether you try and love them or not. Well, if you do try and show them love, like,
Well, that's what I said. The
You know?
best,
Oh.
like the best. Well, I don't.
I don't know.
And they might, there might be some, conflict in there, but at
Mhm.
least they know that you're not faking with them as well.
Well, I guess that would be the thing if you try and show love to, because some people are like that. Whereas if you try and show them love or whatever, like genuinely love them, some people just be like, "Oh, you're just trying to take the moral high ground, or you're just trying to be Mr. Goody, whatever," and then they just just be done with you and move on, which is never fun. But it's like, I guess for stuff like that, it doesn't make me mad. It just, I mean, it doesn't make me mad. It makes me sad. Because it's that was terrible.
That was terrible.
Because it's like, man, I don't know. I guess that stuff is like kind of saddening though, because it's what does that show?
That people feel so hurt that when people actually try to love them, that they feel.
Well, I'm saying like I the reason that would hurt me, like if I try and show someone love and they just like, oh, you're just faking, or you're trying to make some stupid thing as to why I'm doing it, but not in a good way or out of genuine like love for them. That's just it makes me sad because they don't. Part of me wonders like, do they just not get genuine love, like actual love from people, and they just don't believe it? Like that's, I guess, and that's the sense. That's where my mind goes, and then that makes me sad thinking that that person really doesn't actually get any love, so therefore they don't really believe people doing it to them.
Yeah, there are some jaded people.
Unfortunately,
sad. In this conversation, I'm kind of. This sounds horrible, but I'm kind of ignoring the jadedness of some people just because of the fact that jadedness is a whole other conversation and a whole other wild card that you throw into the mix. I'm talking about normal people who respond to love and don't
fall. Jaded people are people too.
Oh no, they are.
Yeah,
that's what I said. Normal people who actually respond and recognize that there are people who can love without the fact that they are wanting something in return, or they have ulterior motives.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing about loving people. You cannot love with an ulterior motive. Because if you're caring for a person only with an ulterior motive, you're doing it only for their ulterior motive.
Yeah, that's
being selfish again.
Yep.
That's being selfish again.
Yes, that's thinking of yourself.
So, I mean, and it's ridiculous how often we see these things happen with just people wanting to be like, I'm going to pretend to love this person so that way I can convert them to whatever I want to convert them. No, love the person to love them. If something happens because of the fact that you love them, then all the better.
I'll say, and if anything, that's what, if did it, that's what it would be doing. Because at some point, they would probably find out if you're faking it for them.
Yeah.
Because at some point, that's going to get uncovered or shown and be exposed. And then it'll just make the situation all the worse.
Like, go back to when you were younger, Mr. Johnson.
No, I did that yesterday. I'm done.
no, not that far young back.
Yeah.
Not that far back. Okay. When I say go back to being younger, I'm talking about like when we first met, right? And if I had the ulterior motive, like any ulterior motive, like when we first started getting like barbacoa and that,
oh yeah,
there would have been no way that you would have admitted to drunk night in Madison.
Yeah, right.
When that happened,
and you'd have been wasting a lot of money.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but if I was because people know, when someone has an ulterior motive and they're not being genuine with you.
You can sense when it's kind of getting faked.
Yeah, and there would be no sense at that point where you would be like, well, I have trust of this person, because then you'd be like, no, they're just doing it because of blah, whatever. And that's what I said. Well, no, and it will not result in what the original person, I don't want to call him instigator, but the one who has the ulterior motives wants. In order for things to be effective, because if I had ulterior motives, you wouldn't have changed over time as you did. You would have just kind of been you at that point and never really advanced.
I would just go backwards.
Potentially, yes. Ulterior motives are a complete opposite of love in that regard. In other words, they're selfish, as was discussed in that youth group session, whenever that was, sometime last year.
Yeah,
something like
right.
that.
Yeah.
But so when you love someone, you have to love them for them. You have to love the whole of them,
Yeah.
and that's hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Lip smacking and all, Josh.
Oh, I hope you'd hear that. I just had a thought. Now it kind of left me. Now I'm angry. Shoot. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up because there's two thoughts, but then one could totally be. It would be a whole different conversation. But now I just had another thought, and I just gone. Crap, I'm too young for this. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to bring that back in. Then
Yeah, you can.
So loving Josh, lip smack and all. You said, I hope he hears it. Yes, Josh. I do hope you hear it, and I hope you do understand the fact that yes, we do love you. Like I said, lip smack and all, and
only when you give me stuff, though.
And only when you don't try to convince Johnson to buy an $800
chainsaw
for his treeless house.
We just never do anything to the trees. We don't need a chainsaw to do anything for our trees.
Yeah,
but who knows? Maybe I'll have more people that'll need trees taken down, so then I'll need a chainsaw for it.
But coming back to the whole conversation at heart here, when we seek justice over loving a person, we should take a step back. And when I say when we seek justice, what I'm saying, when we say my rights supersede that of the desires and wishes which make another person comfortable, aka around this COVID time and COVID masks and blah 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 blah, when my wants and desires interfere with those, I guess you could say anything of another person, my comforts supersede Johnson's comforts, that's being selfish as well. Love is hard when you take it into big context like that. Love is difficult, and love is at times just out of grasp, but it's also something that, like I said, at least me daily works on and have to remind myself on to continue to strive towards that, to be able to love others. Because if that is not something I put at the forefront, and I'm saying at my mind, because I'm not speaking for Johnson in this regard, but if it's something I don't put at the forefront of my mind, it is so easy to flip back to that switch and just say, I'm going to do what I want to do for myself without worrying about others, and say, screw you to the rest of you. And then when I see someone do something, immediately go, you slurp your drink out of a can. I hate you. Go away.
You make me sick.
Instead, I need to go, I love you. Here's a straw.
I know I've read this verse in another episode at some point.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was, but it was James 2:13. I just remember this whole story of this one pastor that was talking about this verse or whatever, and he had some whole story about some college thing. Anywho, the verse says, "For judgment is without mercy to one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment." Now, granted, it's like, yes, but I don't want that to, I guess, get confused with, obviously, saying that there's no, depending on the actions and what is done,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's consequences that you're going to have to face.
Yeah. Again, love does not
Yeah.
exempt you from the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
You murder someone, just because I love you does not mean that you are not going to face justice.
Yeah.
In that regard, as the law demands. But at the same time, you murder someone, Johnson, doesn't mean I'm going to cut you out of my life and say I don't know you anymore.
Yeah.
It means I'm still going to love you, and maybe visit you to talk with you when you're in jail for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk with you and try to help you, not help you out as far as break out of jail or get out of jail, but help you as far as
got the stuff.
you know, on a personal level, how you interact and deal with things, how you are processing, helping you to realize maybe, hey, what you did was not a little wrong or a lot wrong.
Not a little, but a lot.
You know, in that regard. And that's the thing. I think that we're seeing with like some of these protests and these unrest is they equate love as free of consequences. They say, because you should love us, and when I say us, I'm talking about the rioters and protesters, you should not criminalize things that we like to do. That's not what that means. It doesn't mean you're free from criminal law.
I say there's still right and wrong.
Yeah.
It's just how you go about dealing with something when something is wrong. And again, as you said, still loving someone does not negate having any sort of consequence or stuff like that. But
yeah, in this regard, I think you can think of it more like this. The love is more that interpersonal relationship than the relationship between the person and the law of the land, you know? So in other words, you, Mr. Johnson, can do whatever, but I'm still going to love you.
Mm-hmm.
You can become a drug-addicted heroin addict living under a bridge, murdering children left and right. I could still love you, even though I'm going to have to turn you into the authorities for killing children.
Wow. That's a terrifying thought.
I know. Just the same as we can love people who were former alcoholics, who have turned, and decide to get clean. Even loving them during that time when they're struggling. Because what do you think interventions are? Interventions are people who are saying, we love you. We want to see you get better.
Mm-hmm.
We're offering to help, and sometimes they'll go, well, in order to be a good intervention, you must say that you're going to cut all ties with them. And I don't know. Maybe that is a way to kind of maybe force them. I don't know in that regard. Right. But you have stuff like that. You have the example, of Christ himself saying, look, Saul, who was persecuting Christians, said, even though you're persecuting them, I still love you. And actually, I have a mission for you and a plan for you. and gets him to change his ways. And he changes his name into Paul, Saul to Paul. But even that, a guy who was actively going out and persecuting people.
Being flipped around. Going on to that is, think of the people that were already that were Christians. And then being told, oh yeah, hey, this guy that was killing you, yeah, he's on your side now. And that would be if that were me, I'd be like, you gotta be joking.
I'm sure there were some people who were very hesitant at first. But
yeah, there were.
But and I think first century Christians were a lot better at this than we are now. In fact, I can kind of put my stamp of approval saying they are definitely. The fact that they were loving each other in the community and trying to love him at the same time means that ultimately they would have to trust him and see past what he had done.
Yeah.
There was guys in the church before you kind of grew up and were older, right? That one of the guys I knew, he, when I say when I was in 18, 19 phase, so that college type thing. And, he used to be a big party guy, big drunk and everything. But through his friendship with someone from the church, to be fair, it didn't help that, he kind of thought she was pretty. But through that friendship, and it's everything, he eventually came to Christ because she didn't stop loving him, even though she saw what he was doing on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that. I'm not saying it's easy because people, take this however you want to take this. People are annoying.
Yeah.
Okay. I am very much an introvert. So whenever we have to go up to camps and that, I remember one time we were going to camp and we were at a McDonald's street camp for food, whatever. And Pastor Dave was like, oh, so we ordered at the kiosk or at the counter? I was like, I'm going to order at the kiosk because I hate people. You know, that was just a statement I said, and Penny goes, "Are we sure we should be taking him to camp?"
Yeah, right. Oh, Penny.
You know, and this was
So
like this
funny.
had been many years of me doing camp already, so it wasn't
Yeah.
like a question of like seriousness, but it was more of a joking thing. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you know, it's like I prefer not interacting with people when I get the chance. I prefer machines over people. Okay, I'm being honest here. But at the same time, I know I have to be loving to those I interact,
Yeah.
even those I disagree with or disagree with me, because I cannot guarantee that either of us are right on the various things. And just because I have an opinion on something does not make those with contrary opinions evil.
No.
Just because I support a political candidate doesn't mean those who support an opposing political candidate are evil. As much as our country tries to make it seem like if you follow a certain political candidate or the other, you are Satan incarnate, you know, or if you're
Yeah.
AOC saying we must have a list of all Trump supporters to hold them
Ooh.
accountable in the future, sort of thing.
That's spooky. I
And
don't like that.
and that's I'll tell you, when she says stuff like that, it is hard for me to go, I must love this person. I will
That's
freely admit
legitimate.
it is hard for me to say this person is still made in the image of God and I need to love this person. Because part of me, this sounds horrible. Part of me just wants to kind of, when she says stuff like that, just wants to kind of retch a little bit and say no. But then I go, she, like everyone else, was made in the image of God. She, like me, was. She, like Aaron, was. She deserves love. And when I say love, again, I'm not talking romantic love. I'm talking the love of wanting what's best for her. She is still an elected leader. She still deserves that respect. She can be criticized for her comments and things. Again, love does not mean you are immune to the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
But it does mean that you are treated with dignity. You're not just called a idiot and left on the wayside. It does mean that a conversation should be done with respect, with the desire and the wanting to come to an understanding, even if that understanding is that we will not agree on this topic, but that is okay.
And still be friends.
Yep.
Or not.
And that you don't necessarily have to be friends,
but you can still love one another.
but you can still love them.
Yep.
And sometimes we like to say these platitudes, oh, we must love everyone. All we need is love. Imagine the hardest person in the world to love. The one you disagree with the most on everything. So in other words, if you were a Trump supporter, let's say, you that is conservative and that you are anti-abortion, all that. Imagine how you could love an abortion-wanting Biden supporter. That would be hard, but yet we are called to love one another even in those circumstances. Imagine you are a Biden supporter and all of a sudden you got to remember you have to love that person who is a Trump supporter.
That's tough.
I think our conversations in America, and I know right now you have social media deleted, but right now those conversations on social media are so full of hatred and vile. And that's why I got to stop myself from jumping in them, because it's like, I need to remember to show love to those there. And a careless word here or there can easily discredit any semblance of love from happening.
Right.
So is all you need love? No, love is not all you need.
Beatles got it wrong.
You need a good head to think through how you're going to love. That's what you need. Any final words there, Mr. Johnson?
A stupid one. Unfortunately. When near the end of your thing was, well, you said all you need is love. The next word you said was imagine. I was just like, nice. You got 2 Beatles songs right in a row like that. Oh, which both, yeah, no, not good. I had to do it. I just wanted to see your reaction. But in all seriousness, though, oh man, I guess it's. I guess to a point before, yeah, acting in any sort of way. Or think if you're being angered about something, it's I don't know how to say to do it, but just to take a step back, breathe, think about well, one, how would you like to be treated in this scenario, and be loving towards the other person? But also, just anything you do, I suppose, for someone else, it's just try and be conscious of other people and think of them. Not to say obviously that you don't do anything for yourself, kind of thing, but it's like, be mindful of others. And again, see what are your intentions with things. That's about it.
All right. I guess for me, I'm going to go back to 2 lines of the song.
Mm.
Somewhere deep down, you know the difference between love, following orders.